Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Thursday, May 25th, 2017. Here are top stories.
Tonight. First, they said he was racist. Then he colluded with the Russians. And now the Democrats are saying that Donald Trump wants ethnic cleansing, as the progressives prove once again that liberalism is a mental disorder.
This budget, if I could be honest with you, it is an attempt to implement ethnic cleansing in this nation.
Then, the welfare state of America is in jeopardy as President Trump plans to stop much of the nation's handouts to lazy welfare recipients. That's right, I said lazy. All that plus America's murder rate goes down while concealed and carry goes way up. All that plus much more up next on the Infowars Nightly News.
During this Memorial Day, I want to thank the veterans that have fought, but of course, most importantly, those that have died, because that's what this holiday and remembrance is all about. Take advantage of these unprecedented specials and help support the tip of the spear in the fight against the globalists while supplies last. These are the biggest sales ever on these items. You add auto ship, several of these are lost leaders. So for myself and the entire Infowars crew, I salute you and thank you for all your prayers on this Memorial Day. Just understand that without you, there'd be nothing, because you are the Infowar.
This is the Infowars Power Pack, and it can start your car if it has a dead battery. And now we're going to use the Power Pack to jumpstart this truck. And we're going to show you. Switch on the Power Pack. Wait a few minutes, and then you'll be able to start your car. With just a few minutes on the Infowars Battery Pack, you go from a dead battery to this. You get all that cranking power in this little brick. The Infowars Power Pack is a must-have, and it'll give you peace of mind whether you're at home or on the go. It's so compact, it'll fit in your backpack, your glove box, or even your back pocket. Get one for your home, boat, car, camping setup, or just for emergencies. Secure your peace of mind today and order your Infowars Power Pack from InfoWarsStore.com or dial 1-888-253-3139.
Welcome to this live edition of the Infowars Nightly News. Stay with us because we may have, depending on if they have the results of the Montana congressional race, we may have results for that in this hour. But within the last hour, we've had the Washington Post come out and say that Jared Kushner is now a focus in the Russian investigation. Focus on the word focus, because they have a big disclaimer there about what that is really meaning. They say investigators are focusing on a series of meetings held by Jared Kushner. Kushner held meetings in December with the Russian ambassador and a banker from Moscow. Now, again, is this part of the transition team? Or people who are elected to office as part of the transition team, are they allowed to speak to people from other countries? This looks, at this moment, like more of a witch hunt. Of course, there are ethical issues with Jared Kushner, the massive loan that he's got from George Soros, but don't expect them to investigate anything to do with George Soros. The Washington Post is not going to go there. They're not going to go to other ethical issues. But they say that Kushner is the only current White House official known to be considered as a key person in the probe. Of course, they alleged that they're looking at Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn. But again, this is part of the continuing drip of allegations. And listen to this disclaimer that the Washington Post puts there. I think this is very interesting. The Post has not been told that Kushner is a target or the central focus of the investigation, and he's not been accused of any wrongdoing. Target is a word that generally refers to someone who is a main suspect of an investigator's attention, though prosecutors can and do bring charges against people who are not marked with that distinction. And then they go on to write a multi-page article coming after him. Let me tell you what is really behind Russiagate, the real reason for this. And we've mentioned this before, but I think nothing shows this more clearly than the article that came out yesterday. It was on the Drudge Report. Circa put this out. Barack Obama's team secretly disclosed years of illegal NSA searches spying on Americans. They say the National Security Agency under Obama routinely violated American privacy protections while scouring through overseas intercepts and failed to disclose the extent of the problems until the final days before President Trump was elected. According to one top secret document that chronicle some of the most serious constitutional abuses to date by the U.S. intelligence community. And they point out that this document shows that more than 5%, that's 1 in every 20, of the data that they have intercepted with internet data, they said that has violated the safeguards that Obama and his intelligence team promised to follow in 2011 when they reduced the restrictions. They say that the Obama administration self-disclosed these problems at a closed-door hearing, October the 26th, to the FISA court. Now, if you know anything about the FISA court, you know that there isn't anything other than a closed-door hearing. It is one judge. It's not a court. There's nobody arguing the other side of it. They claim that they are modifying our Constitution, our rule of law, but of course we're never even allowed to see the secret determinings that happen in this star chamber. And when we go back and look at this, understand, as I've pointed out many times, why do we even have the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act? That was created because in the 1960s and the 1970s, the CIA and the NSA were spying on Americans. They were intercepting phone calls. They were snooping on Americans, and they didn't want the intelligence agency snooping on Americans. Now they're doing this openly against politicians. Not only have they shredded the Fourth Amendment, and we know that that's been done. It's been shredded, it's been burned, it's been incinerated, it's been buried. It's dead. Constitution is dead in this country. But what they are saying now, they're doing this openly, and they're gradually starting to roll this out, moving the normalcy window here so that you get this Overton window, and now it's normal. This is the kind of thing that the government does, right? No, it's not. They distracted everybody's attention with those hearings by talking about how they were assassinating or attempting to assassinate Castro, showing the heart attack gun, etc. But what they were doing was they were assassinating the Constitution and the rule of law, and now we see it very clearly. Are we going to do anything about it? They say the normally supportive FISA court, see, even the FISA court can't believe how they're being used. They say even they censured administration officials, and they called it, quote, an institutional lack of candor. Candor, okay? That is, what they're saying is the bureaucracy is lying to you. The intelligence bureaucracy is lying to you. You can couch it in nice phrases like institutional lack of candor, okay? But that's what it is, folks. And they said, even the FISA court said this is a very serious Fourth Amendment issue. The admitted violations undercut one of the primary defenses that the intelligence community and Obama officials have used in recent weeks to justify their snooping into incidental NSA intercepts about Americans. See, they're still lying. They were lying all along. They were lying before any of this stuff happened, and now they're going in 6-7 months into this, and they're continuing to lie about the basis of this. And they're creating this Russian red herring, this Democrat conspiracy theory. They're creating this because they're in big trouble once the public understands this. If we have anybody in this country that cares anymore about the Constitution, the rule of law, wants to restore that, then they're in big trouble once this gets out. And of course, Rand Paul has pointed that out. Again, they go back to, they say officials like NSA advisor, our national security advisor, Susan Rice, have argued their activities were legal under the so-called minimization rule changes that Obama made. See, you can't, by executive order, abridge the Constitution. But of course, all of this is an abridgment of the Constitution. But they say that the intelligence court, the FISA court, and the NSA's own internal watchdog found that this was not true. And so what they said was, October 26, 2016, they gave a notice to the court that the NSA analysts have been conducting such queries in violation of that prohibition that the Obama administration had created. They said, don't worry, just like with the NDAA and indefinite detention without trial by the military, rendition, torture, whatever, and Obama signed it, said he wasn't going to sign it. He signed it and said, don't worry, I won't do that. Well, that's what he said with all of this. I'm going to relax these rules, but don't worry, we're not going to do that. And then when Susan Rice unmasks people who they say were picked up incidentally, which is another violation of that, she refuses to testify. And the way the press reports it is that she declined the invitation, just like Hillary declined the invitation to turn over her server to the FBI so they could take a look at it. Rand Paul said, if we determine this to be true, this is an enormous abuse of power. This will dwarf all other stories. Well, we would hope so, wouldn't we? We would hope that this kind of abuse of power, that the fact that we have the FBI, the NSA, the CIA openly campaigning against Donald Trump, both before and after the election, that they get caught manipulating public opinion, that they get caught spying on political opposition, that all this would happen. This is more serious, folks, because not, as I said before, they have destroyed the Constitution, and we don't have that anymore. Most people don't really care about that, but understand that we are descending into Banana Republic territory here. If they can use the massive security apparatus that they have created, the surveillance state, if they can use that for political purposes and do it openly, as they are doing now, and get away with it, then we are done. We are done. The ACLU says, I think this emphasizes a shocking lack of oversight of these programs. No, what it shows is that there is no oversight of these programs. There is no Constitution. There is no rule of law in this. Meanwhile, we have today Manchester police, after the Ariana Grande concert bombing, are very upset that the U.S. shared intelligence. They did it to reward their operatives in the New York Times, because you've got Operation Mockingbird. They've got a long relationship that goes back a very long time. So this is the way you keep that relationship going. You feed them little titillating bits of information, even though they did not want in the UK this information put out there. They feed this out to their Operation Mockingbird partners. And so they, as I point out, they have an agreement known as Five Eyes, and they're not supposed to release that kind of stuff. And of course, we know the U.S. government, especially the intelligence agencies, would never violate an agreement, would they? Meanwhile, Donald Trump condemned the leak as he was meeting with officials in Europe. Prime Minister Theresa May was very angry about this. Apparently, she raised concerns with Trump at a NATO summit in Brussels, telling him intelligence shared between their two countries had to remain secure, in a rare public show of dissatisfaction with Britain's closest security ally. She said the alleged leaks coming out of government agencies are deeply troubling. Sorry, that was Trump who said that in a statement released after he arrived in Brussels. And he said, I'm asking the Department of Justice and other relevant agencies to launch a complete review of this matter if appropriate. The culprit should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. To which the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI said, leaks? Meh, we don't care. We don't care. Now, let's take a look at what else happened at the Brussels conference. There's a little bit of arms wrestling going on at NATO. Not only did he criticize them for their lack of contribution to the budget, but let's take a look at Donald Trump, who I think at the end of this trip may be getting a bit much of kings, dictators, pontificates, and European bureaucrats. Take a look at this handshake that he's got with Macron. I guess it's the handshake before the shakedown. And the press is having a lot of fun with this. Say each man gripped the other's right hand so firmly, their knuckles turned white, their jaws seemed to clench as they sat face-to-face for the meeting. And you can see that they just don't let go of this handshake. And it goes on for quite some time, especially if you slow it down like that. You can see what's happening. They say Merkel, on a recent visit to the Oval Office, you might remember this, tried and failed to get Trump to shake her hand. The symbolic face-off continued later in the day at a NATO summit as Macron approached a group of other leaders and made Trump wait. First, exchanging greetings with Merkel, then with the head of the Western military bloc of NATO, and then with others. So basically, he made Trump sit over to the side and wait to show that he really didn't care much for Trump. That's possibly part of what was behind that handshake. When Trump finally seized his hand, he pulled it so hard the French president had to use his other arm to set himself free. The second awkward moment that was caught on cameras and went viral today. And you can see, as we've got a clip of him as Donald Trump walked into the meeting, and he kind of shoved aside the president of Montenegro. Do you guys have that clip? There we go. He's shoving aside the president of Montenegro and getting up there because Montenegro is a small country that was just added. Remember, Rand Paul spoke against adding them, and he was accused of being a Putin puppet by John McCain because he wanted to get Montenegro into NATO. Montenegro has a population that is about the size, or maybe about half the size, of the city of Austin. It's a tiny nation. But, of course, you cannot have enough tripwires around the world to please John McCain. He would love for us to have mutual defense agreements with all these different countries so that if anything happens, we can get pulled into a war very quickly. Meanwhile, Trump shames NATO leaders on their defense spending. He hectored NATO leaders, as Bloomberg puts it, to pay their fair share on defense to help counter the terrorist threat. publicly shaming them, risking souring a ceremony that was intended to mark the alliance's unity. Well, what was that? Well, as Trump pointed out, there's 23 of these nations are still not paying what they agreed to pay. But we shouldn't talk about that. We should just put it on the taxpayers of the United States. Donald Trump said that's not fair to the people, to the taxpayers of the United States. Many of these nations owe massive amounts of money from past years, and they're not paying for many years. And where did this happen? This happened at a ceremony marking September 11th, 2001. This was a monument that they were putting up there at NATO, which I think underscores just how pointless and useless NATO is. Now, meanwhile, back here at home, we had a Democrat call Trump's budget ethnic cleansing. This is a Philadelphia bishop who I guess is trying to take Al Sharpton's place. And he accuses President Trump of trying to implement ethnic cleansing through this proposed budget cuts. Here's what he had to say.
If I could be honest with you, it is an attempt to implement ethnic cleansing in this nation. These cuts will take away jobs in needed industries like healthcare, put people out of work, and increase poverty in this nation. We will see an increase in the early death and suffering as a result of lack of healthcare access through Medicaid. Seniors starving from lack of access to programs like Meals on Wheels.
There you go. If you don't have Meals on Wheels, you will have seniors starving in the streets. He said President Trump and his surrogates have used dog whistle language about race in negative ways to create fear. He said that with no sense of irony or hypocrisy. He says we will see an increase in the early death, as you just heard, and suffering and lack of health care through Medicaid, seniors starving for lack of access to programs like Meals on Wheels, an increase in infant mortality from a lack of proper, and listen to this, a lack of proper prenatal care and reproductive care for women. And he said that as this bishop was flanked by supporters with signs that read, "I stand with Planned Parenthood." That's how concerned he is about the health of people. That's how concerned he is about ethnic cleansing and genocide. He stands with the people who have created a black genocide in this country using Planned Parenthood, using abortion. This guy is nothing but a poverty pimp. And it reminds me of what we just saw this last week with the Supreme Court, I reported this before, refusing to hear the case of appealing the voter ID laws in North Carolina. And what the Fourth Circuit Court had said in striking down North Carolina's voting laws said, these ballot restrictions target black voters with almost surgical precision. Now, I want to read you how they were targeted. They said they needed to have photo ID. They reduced the early voting period, which is the longest in the country in North Carolina, from 17 days to 10 days. They eliminated out-of-precinct voting. They eliminated same-day registration. Now, they're saying that that directly targets black voters. So what they're telling you is black people can't get their pictures taken. They can't get a photo ID. Black people don't know where to go to vote. They don't know when to vote. They don't know they have to register in advance. This is insulting to black people. This is what these poverty pimps have done. And here's the result of this. Michael Snyder points out today, this is a handout nation. The combined enrollment in America's 4 largest safety net programs hits a record high of 236 million. As he points out, it's not 236 million unique people because many of them are enrolled in several of these programs. Understand that the safety net can also have the effect of sawing off the bottom rungs of the ladder to keep you from rising from your place. We want people who want a hand up and not a handout. Stay with us. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk about what's going on in the Philippines. Will it be the next?
During this Memorial Day, I want to thank the veterans that have fought, but of course, most importantly, those that have died, because that's what this holiday and remembrance is all about. Is those that made the ultimate sacrifice for the belief they were building a better world. Didn't mean every war was good. Didn't mean they didn't get conned. Didn't mean they didn't get used. But I'm here to tell you, they were at least people that were willing to stand up for something. And that's worlds apart from so many of the trendies and globalist wannabes and minions of the establishment that want to take the easy road. Take advantage of these unprecedented specials and help support the tip of the spear in the fight against the globalists while supplies last. Our highest quality, name brand, silver bullet that we private label is already the highest quality and lowest price of what we sell it at. And I've never offered it as a loss leader like I'm about to do at 65% off retail right through next Tuesday. Super Male Vitality's been sold out for months, our #1 best-selling product. I normally just give 25% off. We are doing 30% off Super Male Vitality out of the gates through next Tuesday. Survival Shield, high quality, true nascent iodine, deep earth crystal source, has been sold out. We never offer it at 40% off. It's offered at 40% off for a limited time to, again, celebrate our patriots and celebrate those that died in the service of this great republic. Brain Force, now with 20% more in each bottle, is 47% off. We've, again, never offered it at that. It's a bestseller. It's been sold out. Why am I discounting it? Because I know it's a tough economy out there. I know the globalists have been trying to stop the Trump recovery. And I know this is a powerful product. And so if you try it, I think you're going to continue to want to buy it. Especially if you sign up for auto ship, that's an additional 10% off. When you add that in to 65% off Silver Bullet, it is a loss leader then for sure. You add that to the 30% off Super Male, that's 40% off. You add that to Survival Shield at 40%, that's 50% off. You add that to Brain Force at 47, that's 57% off. You add that to Secret Trouble at 43%, our vitamin B12 Methyl Bottleman, that is 53%. Knockout is at 50%. Our Sleep Aid, that's 60%. We've never offered it at that. And all Infowars Trump shirts are 75% off retail as well to get the word out. These are the biggest sales ever on these items. You add auto ship, several of these are loss leaders. So for myself and the entire Infowars crew, I salute you and thank you for all your prayers and all your support on this Memorial Day. Hope everybody has a safe weekend coming up. We are at that crossroads. Today we call it bone broth, and for thousands of years our ancestors enjoyed its benefits before it became lost to our modern diets of processed junk. We are now introducing Caveman by InfoWarsLive.com, the ultimate in true paleo nutrition with bone broth, turmeric root, chaga mushroom, and 7 total primal superfoods in a single great tasting formula. Caveman. It's those people living in the wilds having to actually build civilization that are our superior ancestors. And we need to do everything we can to recapture that. Everyone knew that you used all the parts of the animal. You used the meat for sustenance, the fat for cooking, but you used the bones for strength. From the outside structure full of minerals and key cofactors to the marrow that produces the blood for the body. This is the engine of the life essence. I'm a long way from the caveman my ancestors were, but I'm sure as hell trying to get back to that essence that made us what we were, and this is a big part of it. I know you're going to want to check out Caveman Ultimate Paleo Formula for yourself at InfoWarsLive.com today.
Welcome back. Today we see massive fighting in the Philippines. Martial law has been declared, and the question is, will the Philippines become the next Syria? We see in this Muslim-controlled area, and of course we look at Mindanao. As you see the map behind me, Mindanao is the southern portion of the Philippines. It has been predominantly Muslim for a very long time. As a matter of fact, it had a large Muslim presence there since the 1300s, but that has recently exploded. And of course, in the 1980s, they were created as an autonomous region, the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao. That was created in 1981. Prior to that, they had had a movement, the Moro Muslims and the Moro National Liberation Front. For all those of you who say that Barack Obama can't be a Muslim and a communist, well, just take a look at this. But they were fighting, and to try to stop that, Ferdinand Marcos offered a plebiscite in the 1970s that was voted down. They did another one in 1981. Only 4 areas wanted separation, but then they expanded that again in 2000, and the Muslim population has blossomed, I guess we could say. Now what we see happening is a massive attack in a couple of towns. A police chief has been beheaded by militants. They have taken over some of the towns, and they have been rebuffed, the Philippine military, as they're trying to take that town back. Militants allied to ISIS have rampaged the southern Philippine town, beheading a local police chief, kidnapping a priest, 10 parishioners, as more firefights broke out and buildings were set ablaze on Thursday. As a matter of fact, they've also have had the ISIS flag flying from the hospital. The violence erupted on Tuesday in Marawi, has left at least 21 dead, 13 militants were dead, and dozens wounded. President Duterte has declared martial law on the island of Mindanao, and of course he was in Russia speaking to Putin because he is. There's been a lot of tensions between Duterte and the U.S., especially under the Obama administration. And so he's making moves to other leaders. He had to cut that trip short and come back to the Philippines. The militants have threatened to kill the priest and other hostages that they captured while they were saying prayers. They stormed into St. Mary's Cathedral in the town, and they have taken them as human shields. Witnesses reported loud explosions in the town Thursday as several military helicopters hovered overhead. Philippine President Duterte threatened to impose nationwide martial law to combat the rising threat of terrorism. And he said the beheaded police chief was on his way home when militants stopped him at a checkpoint. This is, Mindanao makes up about a third of the country, home to about 20 million people. And he said that this is going to be harsh. As he came home from Russia, he said, as he held a press conference, "If I think you should die, you will die. If you fight us, you will die. If there's an open defiance, you will die. And if it means many people dying, so be it." As he spoke in Manila, members of the military gathered on the outskirts of Marari, reports NPR. They said the military had aimed to quickly capture an individual, Hapilon, a senior leader of Abu Sayyaf, only to be surprised Tuesday by an influx of 100 jihadi fighters who backed him. Between that botched operation and Duterte's speech, Abu Sayyaf militants and their allies in the Mate group raised the black flags of ISIS above some public buildings. As I pointed, the hospital is one of them, many others as well. They burned other buildings. They killed at least 3 members of the security forces. The police officer was beheaded, so forth. They have blocked off the town. Now, this comes on the same day that we have had a leaked transcript. Another leak. Imagine this. Another leak from people who are eavesdropping on Donald Trump. Wouldn't be John Brennan's friends that are left behind, or James Clapper's friends who are left behind, or James Comey's friends who are left behind. Nevertheless, another leaked transcript where he was talking to Duterte. And in this, a lot of people are very upset about it. CNN, he said, "I just wanted to congratulate you because I'm hearing of the unbelievable job you're doing on the drug program. Many countries have this problem." He said, "We have a problem. But what a great job you're doing. I just wanted to call and tell you that." Well, why would that get anybody upset? Well, it's getting people upset because in this campaign, they estimate that perhaps more than 7,000 Filipinos have been killed. So when Donald Trump says it's an unbelievable job, what they're doing is extrajudicial executions by the police. He has encouraged, according to Human Rights Watch, he has encouraged the police to shoot first and maybe never ask questions. This is something that's been going on for quite some time. But part of this back and forth that we have seen with President Trump and President Duterte, I think, is involved in the politics of this. Because Duterte, as he was angry with Barack Obama, had said that he was going to, he thought he was going to be assassinated by the CIA. He also called about 6 or 9 months ago for all U.S. forces to leave within 2 years. So this is a kind of pushback we've not seen before. And as we look at this, we understand that this is something that's not the first time we've had an attack in the Philippines. About 9 months ago, ISIS-backed rebels attacked a jail, and 20 heavily armed fighters attacked a jail, and they released some 8 of their fellow militants and 15 other inmates. So that was about 9 months ago. But as we look at this war on drugs that he is doing, it is a situation where basically he is rounding up people who are simply suspected drug personalities. 2,717 suspected drug personalities were killed, and this is a total that was put out by Reason Magazine as of May the 1st, but that doesn't count other people who have been killed since then or other types of slayings. According to PMP numbers, another 3,271 people had died in extrajudicial, vigilante-style, unexplained killings. This is coming from Human Rights Watch. Meanwhile, as he was in Russia, Vladimir Putin is vowing to help the Philippines because he's trying to move and triangulate in, and if they would throw out the U.S., Russia would love to move into that power vacuum. He says, "We will help you fight drugs. We will help you fight terrorism," something that they desperately need, both of those. And as I pointed out, back in October, Duterte said that he was going to remove U.S. troops, and he said maybe the CIA will try to assassinate me. He said, "You want to oust me? You want to use the CIA? go ahead. I'm not going to stop. So these kinds of angry exchanges between Duterte and the U.S. have been going on beginning in the Obama administration. There's been a couple of calls that have outraged people where Donald Trump has tried to tamp things down. But understand that as he was in Russia, he had just given an interview with RT, Duterte, and he said he had some very sharp criticism of the United States. He suggested that the U.S., particularly the CIA, is seeking to destabilize his administration. And then immediately this attack happens. Biggest attack that they've had yet. He asserted that he has a friendly relationship with President Trump. But then he added that the Congress, the State Department, and other arms of the U.S. political establishment are not in accord with Trump. Obviously, we see that, don't we? The same people who are leaking the memos between Duterte and Trump, where Trump is trying to calm this down, those same people are the ones who are trying to overthrow Donald Trump. So they are also perhaps trying to overthrow Duterte. And so, as he says, we're fighting terrorism like any other country. We need arms. And suddenly, 2 senators of the U.S. Congress said they will not proceed with the exportation of these arms. And I said, no problem. I can always go to China, or I can go to Russia. And he said that while he was in Russia. Then he was called home because ISIS attacks. ISIS, the people who we were told just going against President Assad. And so the question is this the same thing that we're seeing happening in Syria? RT also interviewed Patrick Henningsen, executive director of 21st Century Wire, and he made a very close correlation to this. He said, in the end of the day, Duterte is in exactly the same situation, very similar to Assad in Syria, early on in the sort of terrorist takeover of that country, in the early days of the FSA, and then al-Nusra Front, and then later ISIS. So Duterte has to balance out this public relations issue. Is he going to be too heavy-handed? Most people looking at Syria say, well, you can't be too heavy-handed when it comes to dealing with ISIS. He says if there was any criticism of Assad, especially from 2011 to 2012, but especially in the beginning of the crisis in Syria, the criticism from Syrians would have been he wasn't heavy-handed enough. Duterte is probably looking at that same situation in Syria and then taking a sort of a tougher attack, because if it gets out of hand and he starts losing cities or towns or governance to terrorist control, then you really have a big problem on your hands. It's a very complicated area. The artificial islands that China has put in that area. He's also having some harsh words with China, threatening each other back and forth over the Spratly Islands and that area where they've set up artificial islands to restrict trade to try to grab resources. A very complicated issue. Stay with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about Little Mogadishu, our own little terrorist area in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, as a matter of fact. We'll be right back.
Electrify your day with Secret 12. It's like lightning in a bottle. We all have days in which we just can't seem to perform at the level we'd like to. Infowars Life Secret 12 is designed to naturally energize your body and mind with 2 great tasting and super high quality forms of vitamin B12. Proper vitamin and nutrient intake is essential to keep your body functioning at optimum levels. The reality is, it's hard to take in the proper amount of vitamins we need each day with our modern diets. Secret 12 by Infowars Life is an easy way to naturally upgrade your vitamin B12 intake and support your body's natural systems. It pairs 2 forms of vitamin B12 into one explosive formula. Vitamin B12 supports healthy energy levels through red blood cell formation and aiding in the body's natural processes, but it also assists with many other functions of the body. Electrify your mind and body and take your health to the next level. Experience the power of Secret 12 at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Visit InfoWarsLife.com to secure your canister. We have worked for years with our chemists and scientists to create the most powerful and affordable, great-tasting multivitamin formula available. Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix at InfoWarsLife.com is loaded with a full month's supply of essential vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that your body absolutely needs. In the history of InfoWars Life, we've brought out a lot of amazing products like Survival Shield X2, Super Male Vitality, and so many others. With its unique delivery system and proprietary manufacturing process designed for maximized effects, This formula is the platinum standard of multivitamin mineral products. And this part is most important. The ingredients in Vitamin Mineral Fusion are either plant-derived or of the highest quality lab standard. That means it's clean. That means it's pure. And rest assured, you're fighting the tip of the spear in the info war. That's InfoWarsLife.com and Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Take action now before we sell out. We have the new product at InfoWarsLife.com, BioTrue Selenium.
We've had so many requests over the years for selenium, and just recently, we were able to source a certified organic, bioavailable selenium from mustard seed extract. When you take selenium in the body, it actually benefits the detoxification systems in your body. It helps balance the thyroid gland. It helps detoxify.
Selenium is another one of those absolute must-haves.
The highest concentration of selenium is in the thyroid gland, but it's actually used all over the body. As a matter of fact, there's 25 genes in the body that are directly dependent upon selenium. So it really is a all-around nutrient that everybody really needs.
I'm taking it now every day. This is so key. BioTrue Selenium is the product, the best selenium that we could bring you. We believe it's the best out there at a very, very low price. Exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. We're selling a product, DNA Force, that is the very best nutraceutical that we can produce. Dr. Group, you took years for you to develop DNA Force for us.
It's been something that I've been working on for a long time, Alex, because I think it's very, very important. What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying.
We chose the PQQ because it has over 175 different clinical trials. It's one of the most effective substances in the world. It works like an antioxidant. It works to repair nerve growth factor.
So this is a formula to deliver the maximum amount. It's in powder form.
We have so many 5-star reviews. I take this. This is the product that I take.
InfoWarsLife.com, and the profit we make. We fight the globals. We fight the New World Order. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
Remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the outbreak of measles in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And, of course, the person that they were blaming this all on was Dr. Andrew Wakefield, even though this was happening almost exclusively in a community of Somalian refugees who had come into Minneapolis. And, of course, they have a very large presence there. It's even been described as Little Mogadishu. And we have an update on not only the measles outbreak, but also an update over some brothers who've just been arrested with guns, bomb-making material, and things like drones and the ability to rig those electronically to drop things. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at the measles. That's now up to 69 cases confirmed in that area. And remember when we talked about this, we said that the Somalians who are coming into this area were seeing autism at a totally unprecedented rate. They'd never seen this before. Many of them who refused to get vaccinated said, we know people or have had our children come down with autism immediately after getting vaccinated. That's why Dr. Wakefield was there. They wanted to know what was going on, and he knows what is going on, and you should know what's going on as well to protect your children. But they saw that, so they pushed back. A large percentage of that population, about 40%, is not vaccinated. And so now this is all being blamed on Dr. Wakefield. Yet, look at this. Out of the 69 cases that have been confirmed, they have 4 of the cases are vaccinated people. 1 had a dose of 1 shot of the vaccine, the MMR vaccine. 3 people who came down with it had 2 doses of MMR vaccine. So understand, even though they've been dosed twice, had double vaccination, they still got the disease. Now they're going through and they've had about 16 times the number of rate of vaccination that they typically do in that area, which makes you wonder, is some of this due to, as patient 0, a vaccinated patient? Is this causing the spread of the disease? Because you have to understand the MMR vaccine has a weakened but live virus in it. Typically, it's only going to cause some minor symptoms at the time, but we don't know. And as I say, most measles occurring in Minnesota result from someone traveling to or from countries where measles is common. That is from the Minnesota Department of Health. Nevertheless, we cannot blame the migrants. They are never to blame. Even if there is a terrorist attack that is committed by them, we are not to blame the Muslims. If there is a lack of screening for disease, a lack of screening for terrorists, it is never their fault. We are the ones who are to blame. And so they have a little Mogadishu that is there in Minneapolis, Minnesota. A lot of people of Swedish descent. And as I pointed out before when we looked at this, Sweden also has a little Mogadishu. They've had it a little bit longer than we have. They are a little bit farther along. This is an area that is just outside of Stockholm. They're having to build a police fortress there to take care of that, a police station that they're spending $40 million to construct. It will have an annual rental cost of $1.6 million. It's a police station that's going to have bulletproof windows, walls reinforced with sheet metal, fencing around it, possibly with electrified barbed wire. It has been designated a specially protected building, which means that you'll get a year in prison if you even throw a stone at it, and they have to bring the police in armored buses to patrol that area. That's a real Mogadishu, like Black Hawk Down. Now, in this little Mogadishu in Minnesota, what we just had this last week, is growing concern about the arrest of two brothers with ties to the Middle East. Authorities say they had an arsenal with bomb-making materials, guns, and ammunition in their car. This is according to local news, Minneapolis WCCO. They say the two brothers, one of them, Abdullah, is being held in the county jail. His brother, Majid, has been released and is facing minor charges, even though they have all this stuff here. Now, how did this happen? They said they were littering from their car. A man confronted them about that at a housing project. They're at a housing project. They jumped out of their car. They got very aggressive towards him. They used the N-word. Because of their aggression, he called the police. Inside the brothers' car, they found a loaded AK-47, another rifle, a handgun, a grenade, a large amounts of ammunition, and what would later be identified as bomb-making material, including a drone. Nevertheless, Abdullah was released from jail after serving time for a weapons conviction. Okay, he's now facing a single felony weapons charge, but his brother just got out with misdemeanor charges of disorderly conduct. This is what we can expect to see. Meanwhile, they say if we just train them to be nice, we won't have a problem with that. Now, John Bound has a report on MS-13.
The Obama administration knowingly let in at least 16 admitted MS-13 gang members who arrived at the U.S. as illegal immigrant teenagers in 2014, according to Senator Ron Johnson, chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, reports The Washington Times. Officials living in the real world threatened by the results of Obama's anti-immigration laws that have opened the door for El Salvador's brutal MS-13 gang members were on the Hill, explaining the undeniable veritas the left would have us all ignore.
Can you just tell me, what is the purpose of MS-13? I mean, from the gang's perspective, why are they recruiting? Why are they extorting? What is their main activity?
They are a criminal organization, and their main objective is to exist and to be feared. And there's no question that they engage in criminal economic activity. Many of them sell drugs. Many of them commit extortion, robberies, burglaries. But they don't engage in that. They don't engage in those criminal activities as their primary purpose of existence.
Their main purpose is just to exist, to be an entity, to have people loyal to them, and the loyalty extends to macheting people to death.
We have to look at MS-13 in the United States as it evolves. Just like we have to look at MS-13 in El Salvador as it evolved. On the East Coast of the United States, MS-13 is just getting a foothold. On the West Coast of the United States, they've been there for decades. And we actually imported MS-13 back to El Salvador. Now they have begun to evolve, and on the West Coast, they do control drug trafficking markets. They do have connections with other criminal organizations, such as the Mexican Mafia, La MA. They really do just go out and commit the most heinous of violent acts, some of which, as a 22-year investigator, I've never investigated before. to include cutting off of limbs, but they are going to evolve, and they are going to attempt to take over trafficking markets of narcotics, just like they have in the West Coast and just like they have in Central America.
They were extorting money and making money from unlawful operations. Now they're going to Latino-owned businesses and charging them rent. And they're using coercion, fear, threats, and threats that the victims know that these people have the ability and willingness to carry out, to now extort money from legitimate business. This is a trend that we're seeing more recently.
Where are they drawing that growth from? Where's it coming from?
They're recruiting young people in our communities, and they're recruiting recent immigrants because oftentimes they prey on people's fears. So recent immigrants may not feel comfortable coming to law enforcement. They are adjusting to a new culture and society, so they are vulnerable at that point. And they're recruiting also very young. There's one instance where in Suffolk County we have intelligence of MS-13 gang members recruiting a 10-year-old.
But the Washington Post wants you to know that we should all be chained to an iron ball of guilt and political correctness for reversing the deadly importation of psychopaths to whence they came. Writing, the Trump administration's push to deport more Central American gang members has alarmed officials here who fear the returning gangsters could exacerbate violence in one of the deadliest countries in the hemisphere. This year, the U.S. government has deported 398 gang members to this country, compared with 534 in all of 2016, according to Salvadoran government statistics. This sharp increase in the rate of gang deportations and the prospect of more gang roundups in the United States have prompted Salvadoran authorities to hold emergency meetings and propose new legislation to monitor suspected criminals who are being sent home. Former President Obama's knowledge of the exponential threat of cartel-driven brutality is nothing less than treasonous. Of course, it only amounts to throwing yet another example of the former president's crimes against our national security on the pile. John Bound for Infowars.com.
Alex Jones here with a very important news update to anybody out there that wants to be prepared. But it goes beyond being prepared. Our bodies absolutely must have the good halogen iodine or we will die. And you look at all of the thyroid problems and all the people that don't have energy and that have all sorts of hormone problems. And from my research and a lot of just mainline research, it leads back to iodine over and over and over again. It's as important as vitamin C. If you don't get iodine, you die. But most people are just deficient, so they're low energy, they're sick. You got to have iodine in your body so that your body can produce the hormones you need. It is the base to so many things. And since I got into iodine 4 years ago, we've helped change the entire paradigm by developing and bringing to the public deep earth crystals from 7,000 to 12,000 feet of the purest iodine available. Other iodine comes from the ocean or from other byproducts of chemical facilities and is tainted. It's bound. It's not absorbable. I tried it. And I had incredible effects even with dirty iodine because the body needs it. When you don't have iodine, it absorbs the chlorine, the fluoride, and all these other bad halogens. Do yourself and your family a favor and check out the importance of iodine for yourself. I think you're going to be blown away. And whatever you do, support the broadcast and get a bottle of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2. Also consult your physician because if you've been deficient in it or have other issues, it can have some dramatic effects. As for me and most folks I talk to, it's been a game changer in the positive column, but still consult your physician because iodine is no joke. It's a key building block of the body. And if you haven't had it for a long time and suddenly have it, some folks say they've experienced things like a detoxing effect and things like that. You've got to have vitamin C. You've got to have iodine to live. You've got to have water to live. Iodine is key. You must have it, but consult your physician first before you get powerful Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2 at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll free. We can answer your questions, 888-253-3139.
Well, they say that Seth Rich would have had no reason to be disgruntled with the DNC. However, a lawsuit would say the opposite. I'm sure you've heard of this by now, but there is a class action lawsuit going against the DNC right now because Bernie Sanders supporters feel that they were robbed, especially after seeing the details inside the DNC emails provided
by WikiLeaks. So residents of 45 states have filed this lawsuit against the DNC, specifically to the former disgraced chairwoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Now, I want to play this video. Perhaps you haven't seen this. This is the actual footage of Sean Lucas delivering the papers to the DNC.
So here we are in front of the Democratic National Headquarters. This is a lie, yes.
Why?
So because it's a lawsuit, we have over 200, a lot of people that want to be witness that we're doing this lawsuit.
Okay. In this building, I can ask that you not videotape.
Well, we're not videotaping.
Stop videotaping in America.
How you doing?
Public servants, you're not allowed to videotape them.
That's the first thing here.
Shut your camera down. He requests him to shut his camera down. Typical.
With the proper people, I'm sure there'll be.
So there is Sean Lucas with his papers to serve the DNC, and the security staff there is saying, you can't record. How dare you? We're the Democrats. Don't you see? We got stuff to hide. Don't you dare record in here.
You guys know that they told us that we can't be live videotaping this right now, so we have to go to the proper procedure, they say.
Go to the proper procedures in order to record in America.
If I can turn it back on.
What happened to the Bill of Rights?
Don't worry. We're going to let you know. We're going to keep you updated.
So there is Sean Lucas. Can you guys roll the end of that where he serves it? Yeah, here's where they go through the protocol now, and now he's actually going to serve the papers.
Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. Sean, hi, Becca.
Becca.
How you doing, Becca?
I'm just with the DNC upstairs.
With the DNC?
Yes.
All right. Well, this is going to be a service to the DNC.
Okay.
And this is for Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Perfect.
You guys have been served.
Okay.
Thank you so much. This is important. Guys, thank you so much for everything. Have a great day.
Thank you.
That was probably the most gratifying thing I've ever done.
You ever done?
So there's Sean Lucas, may he rest in peace, serving the DNC their lawsuit because Bernie Sanders supporters believe they should be repaid because it wasn't a fair election. It was a selection of Hillary Clinton, but they say there was no reason for Seth Rich to be disgruntled, even though he was very in charge of IT and measuring voter logs with the DNC. So he might have known something that was going on. But let's go on more with Wasserman Schultz, because she is actually involved in another problem right now with the Awan brothers, who deeply infiltrated the Democrat Party by getting into all of their servers. The Democrats hired the Awan brothers for all sorts of IT issues. And what happened? The Awan brothers made off like bandits with all of that information. And Wasserman Schultz is trying to obstruct justice from being served. Here's that video.
Under my understanding, the Capitol Police is not able to confiscate members' equipment.
You're a hideous beast.
It's not under investigation.
Excuse me.
It is their equipment, and it's supposed to be returned.
Well, I think there's extenuating circumstances in this case, and I think that, you know, working through my counsel and you know, the necessary personnel, if that in fact
this police officer can't believe what she just requested.
With the permission of through the investigation, and we'll return the equipment. But until that's accomplished, I can't return the equipment.
I think you're violating the rules when you conduct your business that way.
Oh.
And should expect that there would be consequences.
So here's Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's trying to obstruct justice by seizing the equipment that the police took from her to investigate into the Awan brothers' infiltration of the DNC. She wants to get that back in her possession because she doesn't want justice to be served. She doesn't want the truth to be out about that. But that's just Debbie Wasserman Schultz trying to obstruct justice. She's freaking out right now because she knows that, well, she's the one guilty of wrongdoing, most likely, not the police. Now, let's go on. Let's get back to Seth Rich now. Bombshell. Donna Brazile warned off Private Eye on Seth Rich murder. Why is Donna Brazile sticking her nose into this? Donna Brazile is a disgraced member of the media who cheated for Hillary Clinton. But Donna Brazile is telling police and independent investigators, warning them to back off. Why? Again, you have to ask, would Donna Brazile be going down that road? How about Twitter? WorldNet Daily reports on that story from Donna Brazile, and then Twitter suspends WorldNet Daily for reporting on that. What is up with that? So WorldNet Daily gets suspended for 12 hours. You can see the tweet right now on the Infowars story. WorldNet Daily tweets out, bombshell, Donna Brazile warned off Private Eye on Seth Rich murder. They break the story, they cover the story, and then Twitter censors it? Why would Twitter be going down that road? One must ask. Now, here is where you start to get to the root of the issue. Investigator, cops are hiding evidence and have halted the Seth Rich probe. Everyone is looking right at the D.C. police right now who have ties to Heather Podesta. We'll leave that right there. And I don't want to start saying anything else other than it's time for the D.C. police to start releasing more details or being more transparent, or at least show some signs that you have interest in getting justice for Seth Rich. Can we look at some of the footage from all of the security cameras around the area that night? Can we investigate and talk to the people that were at the bar that night? The D.C. police have fallen short on both of those things. Again, the bar manager even says cops never talked with staff about night Seth Rich was murdered. Again, we know there's all kinds of cameras in that vicinity, and we can't get any of that footage. It's actually being reported that the police aren't even looking to get that footage. So again, more questions there. And here's another interesting point. You've got all of these people offering money for information on Seth Rich. I didn't even see that one. That's a new one that the crew just brought up. I don't even know what this one is. WhoKilledSeth.com, $130,000 reward. Crew just pulled that one up. I didn't even know about that. But you've got WikiLeaks has offered $20,000 of a reward for information on Seth Rich's murderer. You've got the One America News Network that has offered $100,000 for details that could lead to the arrest of Seth Rich's killer. Again, security cam footage, talking to the bartenders that worked at the bar, anything. And of course, you have the D.C. police, the Metropolitan Police, that put out this flyer with a $25,000 reward. This is at the bottom of that story, guys. We'll go back to the top of that in a second. But if you scroll to the bottom, you can see the D.C. police have also issued a $25,000 reward. And then the crew just pulled up that other one for $130,000. I'm not sure where that comes from. So basically, you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table for anyone who's willing to stick their neck out there with some evidence or security footage or information they might have about Seth Rich from that night. But nothing from the police, nothing from the FBI. It really makes you scratch your head. And I will just say this. Tomorrow, I'm going to be issuing a new report on Seth Rich. And this report is going to go into areas and details that which we haven't gone before. And it's going to expose the missing links in this case that could be answered like that with just a little bit of effort from the D.C. police, a little bit of transparency from the FBI. We know that they have access to this information. Thanks to independent journalists and people on the internet, we have found some shocking details. And of course, WikiLeaks and some strange coincidences and connections between Seth Rich, the DNC, and the Clinton campaign with the Podestas and Wasserman Schultz. So we're going to look into more of that tomorrow night.
The Federal Reserve is a private banking cartel.
The Fed is a sometimes very independent organization.
What should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
The Federal Reserve is an independent agency. There is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
They print our money and then loan it to us at interest. The IRS is their collection agency.
So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration or the Congress or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter.
Jeff Duncan says he saw IRS special agents using semi-automatic rifles at a gun range. Now he wants answers to why the agency needs that type of firepower.
I am very proud to announce the introduction of the highest quality Infowars Biome Defense Probiotic. We wanted to come out with the largest spectrum of high quality known probiotics that have been proven to improve overall digestion and health and detoxification in the body. Biome Defense is an exclusive blend of 50 billion live and active cultures from over 23 different probiotic strains that are known to support digestion and intestinal function. Our researchers are confident that we have been able to develop what will be the leading probiotic on the market. Secure your Biome Defense in ultra strength or regular strength at InfoWarsLife.com today and get started supporting your digestive system naturally.